Good morning, everyone, from the CNN Center. This is CNN Saturday Morning. I am Rudi Bakhtiar in today for Betty Nguyen.
And good morning, I'm Tony Harris. It is 11 a.m. in Santiago, 9 a.m. on the East Coast. Thanks for starting your day with us. Let's get you started with the day's top stories. Now in the news.
Word of a deal this morning to forgive up to 80% of Iraq's foreign debt. The issue comes up for a vote today with international creditors attending the G20 summit. Germany's finance minister and the U.S. Treasury Secretary hammered out the details, and the plan calls for a write-off of Iraq's debt in several stages. And in Iraq, 3 Iraqi National Guardsmen are dead after a roadside bomb explodes in western Baghdad this morning. Iraqi police say hours earlier, insurgents attacked a Baghdad police station as well. That triggered a 3-hour battle with police. President Bush is in Santiago, Chile this morning for an economic summit with Pacific Rim leaders. Mr. Bush meets separately today with the leaders of China, Japan, South Korea, and Russia. All 4 are partnering up to get North Korea to abandon its nuclear program. And before it adjourns for the year, Congress meets this morning to vote on a $388 billion federal spending bill. Highlights include a 13% increase in spending for the Securities and Exchange Commission, a 12% boost for the FBI, and less than a 2% hike for education spending. Well, there's a rare Saturday session in Congress today as lawmakers are trying to finish up some last-minute business before the holiday break. Our congressional correspondent, Joe Johns, is live on Capitol Hill. Hi, Joe. Yeah, and I know a lot of families were concerned about the fact that right now they've got the momentum, and what happens in the new year, it might all be forgotten. Our congressional correspondent, Joe Johns, thank you. And in that $388 billion spending bill that Joe was talking about, Congress has tucked away an anti-abortion clause that could have some widespread implications. The provision could make it easier for hospitals and other healthcare providers to refuse to provide abortions, pay for them, or even offer counseling. Some Democratic women lawmakers are saying that the measure would actually take away women's rights, and they're planning on fighting that. It is getting us from details, but President Bush's private one-on-one meetings have been getting much of the attention this weekend. CNN's Lucia Newman has been covering the summit for us and joins us with the latest. Hello, Lucia. Lucia, one of the other subjects that was being discussed is the concerns over the value of the U.S. dollar, which is affecting the Asia-Pacific Rim countries. Where did they fall on that? President Bush is known for his hard stances and tough guy image, but yesterday he really had to play the heavy. As we told you earlier, the president's in Santiago, Chile for the APEC summit. Well, upon entering an official dinner, the president realizes some Chilean security officers are giving one of his Secret Service guards the rope line welcome and not letting him in. Seeing the scuffle, the president swings back to save his agent. The White House says it was simply a misunderstanding.
He just reached in and grabbed his guy.
Look at that.
What Crawford on the room.
Hey, he's with me.
That's right.
We've all done that outside of nightclubs, haven't we?
Sure.
Hey, that's my friend over there.
Okay.
Those images of war inspiring 3 people here in the United States to do what they could to get the children back in school. They actually started the organization called the Rebuilding Afghanistan Foundation, and last night the group held a ribbon-cutting ceremony to celebrate the completion of their first school funded with the help from RAF. Since the war, 5 million students have returned to class. That's huge, but says a representative of the Afghan embassy in Washington, there is still a long way to go. The report on Iraq's weapons of destruction, or lack of them, completes the work begun more than a year ago by the CIA. The first leader of that effort, David Kaye, joins us now by phone. David, thank you so much for joining us.
Happy to be with you tonight.
First, your impressions of this report.
Well, I think it's a very consistent report with the earlier conclusions we reached. On the major points, lack of weapons of mass destruction, degraded capabilities, Saddam's continuing desires for WMD, all are very much the same. There's some additional detail with regard to foreign countries and companies that helped Iraq beat the sanctions program, but by and large, that's the only thing that's new.
Put this in perspective for us, if you will. What was the predominant thought weeks before the war?
The predominant thought was that you would almost certainly find large stockpiles of chemical and biological weapons. There was practically no doubt in the intelligence community about that. The nuclear program, there was a great deal more doubt about it, and the majority view was that he had restarted the program, a great deal of dispute as to how far that had gone.
Here's what I don't understand. If there was nothing to hide, then why wouldn't Saddam Hussein cooperate with weapons inspectors?
Well, and that is the key issue, and it ultimately, Saddam bears the responsibility for his own defeat, not the absence of weapons. Saddam acted like he still had weapons for primarily domestic and regional security interests. He believed that helped keep the Kurds and the Shias online. He thought it was relevant to containing a growing Iranian threat, and he thought that it was some sort of strategic guarantee against a U.S. attack. He sadly misread U.S., as he had in 1991, U.S. intentions and interests in the region.
I don't know if you heard this or not, but today President Bush said that there was a real risk that Saddam would pass weapons of mass destruction along to terrorists. Your thoughts on that?
Well, first of all, Saddam didn't have any weapons of mass destruction to pass along. I think it's fair to say that there was a growing concern that his scientists might, in fact, like A.Q. Khan in Pakistan, sell their technical knowledge because the country itself had fallen into such a state of chaos and corruption. I think that was the real threat, and in many ways, I think Iraq was more dangerous than we anticipated, because if Iraqi scientists had started to sell their technical knowledge, certainly to terrorists, they could have made a very credible threat to our friends, allies, and even to ourselves. Now, fortunately, that didn't happen, but I think the president's right to point to that danger. A.Q. Khan, for 20 years, sold nuclear secrets around the world before we uncovered the plot and stopped it.
For our viewers watching out there, what's the most important thing, David, that they need to take away from this report that was released? That our intelligence system was broken, that it's in great need of urgent reform, and that if we don't do it, we're going to have future surprises. It's going to be very hard to be convincing to our public or the European governments about Iran and North Korea if we haven't reformed our intelligence system. We're open to the charge. You got it wrong in Iraq. Why should we believe you now? All right, Mr. Kaye, thank you for joining us. David Kaye, former weapons inspector. Thank you again, sir.